Okay, I'm going to talk about progressivism and progressive content creators and the strategies we use to push our progressive policies to the forefront, our progressive values. So, and I'm going to compare our strategies to the strategies of the mainstream media. So, what does the mainstream media do? The mainstream media, they push their paradigm, right? They push Trump, they push Biden to the forefront of your perception, and in doing so, they create the perception that there's only two options, right? And that you have to choose between the lesser of two evils. And then a bunch of people who hate both of them don't vote because they think it's useless to vote, right? Because a third party candidate couldn't possibly win. Despite the fact that 40% of people don't vote, we still say that we can't possibly beat these Trump and Biden paradigm, this Republican Democrat paradigm, right? What does the mainstream media also do? Well, they ignore the third party candidates. They ignore the Cornel Wests and the Marianne Williamsons and the RFKs. And instead, like they did with Bernie Sanders, they try to attach a negative label to them, right? Say, oh, he's just a socialist. And what they do is they try to take all of their policies and group them in one negative term to create the perception that those progressives, Marianne Williamson, Cornel West, are pushing negative policies, negative values, right? And they try not to say their names. They 90%, 95% of the stuff the mainstream media does is covering the establishment candidates like Trump, Biden, and even other establishment candidates on the right. Okay, but the other 5%, they barely cover Marianne Williamson or Cornel West or RFK. And again, what that does is it hides the possibility of a third party win or of a non-Biden Democratic presidential candidate, right? And what the progressive media needs to do is flip that strategy on the mainstream media. Okay, so traditionally, these progressive content creators on YouTube, what they like to do is they like to, they see Trump said something inflammatory, and they're make a video on it, and they're gonna attack it. And what that ends up doing is it ends up reinforcing the establishment Democrat Republican paradigm, the Trump Biden paradigm. Because if you're going to attack Trump and you're either preaching to the choir, you're either talking to progressives and they already hate Trump, or you attack Biden, and again, the progressives don't like Biden either, or you push Trump fans deeper into their beliefs, or you push them towards Biden. You're not bringing new people to progressivism by attacking Trump and Biden. When you attack Trump, again, you push people to go towards Biden. When you attack Biden, you push them towards Trump. The progressive media needs to do what the mainstream media does. They need to frame the entire Democrat-Republican paradigm as one failure, one single failure. They cannot keep splitting it up, because when they split it up, they reinforce it. So you need to frame pretty much everything from 1980 to today, about 45 years, from the time Reagan was president. You need to frame that as one collective failure between the Democrat and Republican Party, and you need to labelize it, or you need to demonize it and label it as corporatocracy or oligarchy. You need to label it with demonizing terms that are in all reality true, and then you need to put that corporatocracy up against the progressive alternative, okay, the progressive policies and values that will actually change something, that are actually different from the status quo that is increasingly failing us, okay? The economy is going to shit. Everybody knows this. People are looking for change. They're looking for something truly different. And that's going to increasingly become the case as the wealth inequality grows. And progressives need to stop feeding into the Trump Biden versus Biden paradigm. Again, they need to frame the entire Republican Democrat paradigm that has failed us over the past 45 years as one failure, as one corporatocracy, and put it against progressive values. As I said, so this is the only way that you have to turn the mainstream media's strategy against them. You have to use the exact same strategy against them. And that is how the progressive media becomes the mainstream media. Because as it stands, if you are attacking Trump or Biden as a progressive content creator, just because it gets you clicks on YouTube, you are sacrificing your values for your own clicks. And that's what the entire corporatocracy does. You're part of the machine if you do that. And I don't want to call anyone out here, but there's some progressive content creators on YouTube that I used to like, and they're falling into the machine, and they don't even realize it. Or maybe they do and they don't give a shit. Maybe they've just given up. Maybe they just say, I got mine, fuck it, fuck everybody else. And that's a problem, because it's like the wealth inequality is still growing. We know this. Okay, the wages have stagnated, and they're still stagnating. In fact, inflation's rising faster than wages. That's more than stagnation, right? The prices are rising faster than the wages. And the problem is that if we don't see this, and if we continue to give attention to the paradigm, attention to Trump versus Biden, again, if you demonize Biden, you're either going to cause people to, you're either preaching to the choir, and progressives already don't want to vote for Biden, they're going to vote third party, or they're going to go to Trump. Because, again, the mainstream media pushes the Trump versus Biden paradigm, and they don't talk about third party candidates. You need to do the same with your progressive candidates. Talk about your progressive candidates. 95% of your content should be about progressive candidates. Naming them, naming their policies, talking about the successes they've had in unions and labor strikes and, all over the world, really, and then frame those successes against the failures of the Democrat-Republican paradigm and that corporatocracy term, right? You need to demonize the failures that the system has led us to. Okay, I don't know if this is a real quote, but I think Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results, and expecting different results, rather. So the corporatocracy is insanity. The current economic structure we have is insanity. The establishment Democrats and Republicans are insanity. And if we keep giving them attention, we're going to keep getting insanity. We're going to keep getting the same results. So the point here is that, again, you have to stop saying Trump and Biden's name. You need to stop attacking them too, because, again, we need to move people out of that paradigm. When you say Trump's a racist and a homophobe and a bigot, what happens is the Trump fans dig in deeper, right? They get their shovels and they dig deeper into their hole, and the people who you convince that Trump is a bigot and a racist, they just go vote for Biden. We can't keep voting for the candidates that mainstream media is pushing to us. If your candidate is being pushed by the mainstream media, by Fox News, by CNN, MSNBC, they are not the candidate who is going to save this country. That is literally the only test you need to look at. If the mainstream media is pushing the candidate, it's not the candidate you want. And that also goes for other candidates like Ramaswamy and other candidates on the right, Chris Christie. It's not just Trump. Here's the thing about the right now is that Trump might end up in prison. We don't really know yet, but the Republican Party is looking for alternative choices to Trump, whether because they believe he can't beat the Democrat, whether it's Biden or somebody else, or because he might end up in prison. And that's why they're giving attention to other candidates. On the left wing mainstream media, though, they're giving no attention to anyone but Biden. And if they do give attention to someone like Cornel West, because he's running for a third party, they say he's going to give the election to Trump. And then what that's going to do is, again, it instills fear in the Democrats, and they're going to run to Biden instead of Cornel West. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to convince people not to vote for third party, because it will surely allow Trump to run the United States into some fascist oligarchy or something, some fascist authoritarian state. Despite the fact that he didn't do that in the 2016 to 2020 term, and it's not going to happen in a mere 4 years. If you keep sacrificing your values to pick the lesser of two evils, that evil compounds over time. If you consider Trump one evil and Biden, or Trump two evils and Biden one evil, even if that's your outlook on this, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is a lot of evil after several decades. That's the point here. We need to start picking the candidates that are actually going to subtract from the evil. And the only way you do that is by creating the perception that these third-party candidates can win. You have to start sacrificing your short-term fears to reach your long-term goals. And that means voting third party, even if it means giving Trump another term. We've only got 4 more years of Trump max. Let's get it over with as soon as possible. And then who we're going to get? We're going to get some other DeSantis or Ramaswamy or who knows. Any Chris Christie, a number of candidates. It doesn't matter. Who knows who will be the presidential candidate for the Republican Party in 2024 and 2028. It's hard to say. The point is we need to stop giving the establishment candidates attention. We need to stop saying their names. And I literally mean stop saying their names. Okay? And this might be the last video I say Trump and Biden's name, because you have to understand that when you say it builds the perception in your head that those are your only 2 options. And if you let that perception decide who you vote for, we lose in the long term. We need to start sacrificing against short-term losses for long-term wins. We gotta lose a couple battles to win the war. That is how this is going to work. So vote for your third-party candidate. Put your protest vote out there if you're an unlikely voter, because what that will do is it will build the perception that the number of people voting for that third party will go from 5% to 10% to 15% to 25% over time. It's not going to happen in one election. It will never happen in one election. Maybe it will, but probably not. And if you say that we're going to slip into fascism if Trump wins, which won't happen, okay, the workforce, the labor force is resilient. We will survive a Trump term. We will survive a Biden term. We will survive a term of anybody. It doesn't matter who's president. The workforce is resilient. And eventually, if we build class consciousness up enough, we will start voting for the people who actually represent us, because we will stop being divided by this mainstream media dichotomy between the left and right that has manipulated us with these divide and conquer strategies for going on 50 years now. Okay, if you look back to around when TV and radio started taking off, that's around the time that all the economic issues started. Now, why would that be? Well, let's think about this. So, radio and television take off. Mainstream media takes over. That means the mainstream media now controls public perception. They control how people think, predominantly. Now, obviously, some people think for themselves, right? But most people are controlled by the thoughts they hear on mainstream media. And then what happens is they divide the left and right against each other along social issues, cultural issues, religious issues, anything but economic issues. So when Reagan took presidency, about 1978 or whenever it was, he took the tax rates from here to here, right? And now the Democrat and Republican parties, they debate about this area. Democrats, raise the taxes 2%. Republicans dropping 2%. This is where we were when shit was working. And this is where both the parties now are debating in. And if you think that voting for the Democrat Party, because they're going to raise it to here, it's going to help you, if you think it's going to go like this, that's not how it's going to work. It's just going to keep bouncing back and forth, because we're going to stay in that paradigm. We're going to stay in that Republican-Democrat paradigm that the mainstream media is pushing. We need to create the perception that we need to be here. Again, we can't keep giving these establishment candidates attention as a progressive content creator. You have to start, again, 95% of your content needs to be pushing your Marianne Williamsons and your Cornel Wests and your RFKs. If you don't do that, you are literally a tool of the establishment, and you may not even realize it. You're a grifter. There's a bunch of other mean terms I could use. Okay, bottom line, start thinking outside of the box here. Flip the mainstream media strategy against them. Label them as a corporatocracy that has destroyed the U.S. economy and the world economy, really. Okay, thanks for watching.